Hey there, Squirrel Army. How's it going? Today, we're talking about Ozolith, the Shattered Spire.
You can join the Squirrel Army by subscribing.
Alright, so more +1 counters shenanigans. I'm quite frankly kind of loving that because I have a +1 counters deck. And I've felt for a little while it's a pretty decent deck, but it does feel like some of the cards don't really do a whole lot. They do a lot when you're already kind of doing well, like the branching evolution style of effects. They're really good, but they're also not that good because they don't actually provide you with counters. You've already got to be getting counters pretty well easily. So at that point, when you've got counters coming out of the wazoo, to an extent, it's like, well, I don't really need this, or I need something that does a bit more, or whatever. But anyway, this is a really great card that fits along with a lot of those sorts of cards, like hardened scales and things like that. We were just talking about like two or three of them here the other day that do a lot of similar-ish things. And for so much +1 counters support to come out so quickly is like pretty impressive, honestly, when we haven't had that much for a little while. This is an interesting artifact, 2 mana. You can cycle it away for 2, but I don't know when you're going to cycle this away. Maybe you'd cycle it in like Muldrotha or something like that. I don't know. That's a bit of a weird ability, to be honest. Just in my opinion, I don't know why you'd want to cycle this away. Like, even if like it's not that amazing, it's still 4 mana for 2 counters every upkeep, essentially, at bare minimum. So that's not that bad. Um, so if one or more counters will be put on an artifact or creature you control, that many +1 counters are put on it instead. So again, those are really good abilities. And like it's one less than branching. I know branching is double, but most of the time you're putting one counter on things at a time. So double is usually the same as add an additional for the most part because you're not usually putting like 5 counters on, you're usually putting one at a time. So there's not that huge of a difference for the most part. There are times that it is, but honestly, I don't see it that much in many decks. You can pay 1 and a green, tap it, put a +1 counter on target artifact or creature we control, and only as a sorcery. So I guess they were scared that people could, buff up their creatures there at instant speed and block and things like that or whatever. Or maybe during combat or whatever, things like that. I don't know. But I don't think it's that big of a issue that you have to do it at sorcery speed. It is a tap ability, so that does make it a lot weaker, obviously. But still, this works with itself. So again, just being able to put 2 counters on something for 4 mana isn't that bad. Again, yeah, you can only do it at sorcery speed, so I don't think there's much efficacy of like, oh well, wait till my upkeep or whatever and just do it then or whatever. Like if we've got something with haste like Vorinclex or whatever, something like that, especially like Vorinclex, but anything with haste, you might be like, well, I want to save it till I have that haste creature because that's going to come out and do something or whatever. Or I want to put it on my creature that can attack or can block or whatever it is, like Toski or whatever, if it's just come out or whatever. Things like that. Something that's worth putting your time into. Certainly, you wouldn't want to put it into much else, but hey, whatever. I still think that this is a great card. It's a good card in some other like strategy decks. Like again, it could be good in tokens or whatnot because it works within itself for the most part, so you don't need much other synergy to make it work within itself because it'll just do the thing for you for the most part. But it's best, obviously, in plus one counters decks because that's what it cares about and it'll help you in your deck overall. So, yeah, it's definitely a very good card, and I'm definitely thinking about putting it in to my counters deck. But I don't know how much more like play it could see. Like it could see some play, certainly in the more casual side of EDH. I do think that this is going to be a decently, mediumly expensive rare, maybe $5 to $10 or so. So it's not going to be dirt cheap, but I don't think it's going to be super expensive. But maybe it will climb up and climb up because again, getting additional counters is such a powerful thing, and it might be good in Pioneer. I'm not too sure. I don't really follow those formats and things like that. Not really my interest or forte. So, but whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm really up with this. I'm down with this. I'm happy to see this because again, in those decks that I have, or in that deck that I do have, it's like, well, I have felt like branching evolution, yeah, it can do stuff sometimes, but a lot of times you're just sitting there going, man, it's not actually doing that much for me, or the double doesn't do double, you're just getting an additional, so you might as well just have, something that gives you an additional. And when you're not getting counters, you're just sad because you're just like, cool, it's literally not doing anything. So that's one good thing about something like this is it at least it can do something, um, and it does something within itself. You don't need anything else really to work with it. But yeah, if you have those other things, it will just make this so much better, and this will make everything else you're doing that's doing plus one counter stuff so much better. So yeah, it's definitely good in there, but yeah, it's hard to say where else it'll fit. But anyway, guys, those are all my thoughts. You can tell me your thoughts, write them down there in the comments below. I'll be sure to have a look at them. And hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you will join me again in the next one.